Welcome to the Agency Uplift podcast. This is the podcast all about the unique experience about growing an agency, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the learnings, the interesting opportunities that arise from going through a very, very unique thing such as growing an agency. I'm Sean Lang. I've been an agency owner for over 7 years, and I'm the co-founder of Social Commerce Club. And today we're joined by Marina Fomina, co-founder of Marketing Works. Marina, so happy to have you on the podcast.
So great to be here. Thank you, Sean, for having
It's
me.
absolutely. I was really happy when you agreed to hop on with me. So first off, can you tell us a little bit about your agency?
Absolutely. So my agency is called Marketing Works, and it is a new one. So we're based out of Seattle, Washington. One of the things I really loved when you reached out was to learn that we're in the same time zone, because being in the agency world, you find yourself working with people from all over the world, and sometimes when you do a reality grounding check and you realize, what does the weather look like outside? What time of the day is it for you? Is it midnight? Okay, I'm just starting my day. It it can have an impact on just how the relationship flows. So I'm excited that we're in the same time zone. So I'll start
It's
off with that.
funny. It's funny because I completely agree. It's something that grounds you and kind of like gives you that common ground. Even just looking at the clock, it's the same thing. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we've been going back and forth trying to arrange a time to meet, and we're just failing miserably because they're in Spain and
Mm,
I'm near Vancouver, and it's difficult. So the fact that we're in the same time zone, you're already above the rest.
so good morning to you. And good morning to Seattle and Vancouver. So agency life. Yeah, I did not think I was going to, if you were to ask me 2 years ago, what would I be doing right now? I would not guess that I would be running an agency. So I'll tell about my story. I'm curious. I'm still getting my kind of feelers on. Is this a common way that people progress, or is this something that's unique to me? So it comes. So I spent over 10 years at Amazon. That was the
Oh, cool.
last, yeah, that was the last, well, that was the last official job, we'll put it that way. And and at that point, like the company had changed so dramatically from the point when I joined to the point when I left, right? And it was at the time when there was a lot of tech layoffs happening. And so our division was also going through a pretty dramatic, like 90% if you looked over the year. Um, Change. And so there was a really good opportunity to essentially think about my career path and decide, do I want to continue within Amazon? Do I want to continue building whatever that is? Or is this actually a launch pad to hone the skills that I've been building, that I've been acquiring, that I've been cultivating? And so um, it took about 15 minutes to make that decision, I'll be honest, when I learned about that opportunity. So I said, you know what? I think I'm going to just close this computer and go have brunch, go buy a laptop, my own laptop, and start something new.
Wow, that's very decisive of you.
I think I had been building for some time, and I think there's a big shift in the workplace that's happening now. So, having been more in the corporate space, the really exciting thing about that is that you get to see and you get to work with smart people. That's one just fun thing, right? But you get really big, it almost feels unlimited budgets to do anything, especially a company like Amazon that is very set on whatever that big goal is and whatever that opportunity, like what do the customers need? What do the customers want? What opportunity is there to go after? And then they throw everything at it, everything at it. So being on the marketing side, um, I was first a marketer, the sole marketer among 40 engineers. And that was a wild ride because the expectations are, hey, you're supposed to do everything marketing related. And at that point, I was just dipping my toe into what does this even mean? What does it look like? I think working with any company or in any job, it looks very specific to what that company and that job needs. And so, right? In that case, it was a product called Amazon Assistant, a browser extension um, that people could download, and it would tell you as you're shopping on Google or as you're browsing across the web, if you see an item that is really awesome, you can add it through that extension to your Amazon cart, and essentially it would divert a lot of shopping traffic to Amazon, which makes more money for Amazon. And so as a marketer, my job in that case was not to promote the brand so much. It was really to think about what are those integration points to get in front of people, right?
Right, right, right.
To download. But I digress. So here we are with the agency world. I was really, really excited about the opportunity to partner with a former coworker of mine, Sandra Fogg. She is also located in Seattle. And it's funny because so we're about a year in less than a year in terms of having officially opened our doors beyond the yes, I've registered the company, and yes, we've gone through our beta phase to go through our initial testing process and our initial set of customers to build up to a confidence level where we can say, yeah, let's take on more customers. Let's
Hmm.
go after these bigger brands. Let's go after these other things. And so when we first started, we both had a significant experience. She comes from an agency world of running large media teams, and again, having just massive budgets in the tens of millions annually, where our initial thought was we're going to be full service agency. And then there was the reality check of, okay, it's just the two of us. We don't have a creative team. We
Yep.
don't we don't have an operations team. We don't have a team of media buyers. Wait, how are we going to get the customers? And so um, that was the first phase of what are we going to do? You brainstorm in a room, you dream all the dreams, you get the big ideas, and then you start thinking about distilling. So from
This is
that,
this is
yeah,
such a
I'll pause.
common this is
Is
such a
it?
common process
Please
though.
tell me.
You're
Yeah.
you're describing my early days as well, as there was just two of us, and I can remember the day that me and my partner logged into whatever sort of legal website it was where you could basically incorporate
Yeah.
for a lower price, because we're like, we don't know where this is going to go yet. I
Yes.
can remember when it was incorporated,
Manage the cash flow.
and then I remember the sort of months buffer where we're like, do we tell people yet, or do we just keep this under wraps? And then finally you realize we're going to tell people, and then you're going to do all of the things for all of the people, and then you slowly start to, I remember it's I think it's an uncommon journey to most people, but to the agency world, I think it's actually a much more common journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because you think about, well, we could do this. We could serve all these people. We could do billboards and radio, and we could build out a tech product integration because that's, if you looked at our resumes, 5 years prior to that, 6 years prior to that, that's what, the stars would have shown.
Yep, yep.
And it just speaks to how the world of marketing it's very big,
So
actually.
how did you decide what you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, and it's funny. So for anybody that's listening from here, you actually have no idea what we do unless you read some description. But I'll walk you through the journey. So with those dreams, we started distilling right after the realization of like, okay, it's actually just two of us, and we're not in a position to hire anybody yet because what are we hiring for?
That's a key piece of information right there.
Yeah. And so we started thinking through our experience and really distilling the what what are the channels that pretty much anybody needs if you're a brand, if you're a company, that you as one person, there's not a long distribution channel of you need to go through vendors and buyers, but really you can have direct control over those channels and make a really, really big impact. And where do we see the biggest bang for people's buck, essentially? From our experience managing large budgets and seeing and playing with those, right? So testing different strategies, comparing things against each other, answering for those financial decisions. We saw the biggest impact being on Google, because Google is still the search engine that people go to, and it's
It
it's
is. Yep.
funny, right?
Yep.
We at this point, we run a monthly webinar with something called the SCORE Network. It's essentially, it's similar to the Small Business Association, where a lot of businesses can go and get fantastic resources, and gives us a way to stay very current with what business owners need when they're still in the growth stage before they've become, built out their departments. And so we run a webinar, and we talk about it every month, where we get questions like, well, what about Bing, and what about AI overviews, and what about ChatGPT taking search traffic? What happens in that case? And it's been really interesting to learn that, so Google just published these numbers actually, where in 2024, this is a global number, but there was over 5 trillion searches, which puts it at over 9 million searches per minute. Um,
Wow,
so the
that's
actual
crazy.
apps, isn't it insane? The absolute traffic has grown by over 20%. Um, and yes, people are using a lot of other tools, but the market share, if you look at it for something like ChatGPT, is less than 1%. And so, despite a shift in habits, and despite um, a shift in user expectations, how they use search engines, it's still one of the places where people just go there, 90% plus people go there for information.
Absolutely. I think that this is a really interesting point that this leads to, and this is something that I will talk to a lot of different people with about, especially agency owners. But we we live in a bubble. We live in a technology bubble where we assume
Mm,
that everyone knows the things that we know, and everyone knows about these tools. And because I use ChatGPT like multiple times throughout the day, everyone else must be using this as well, right? Like
yeah.
if I found that search doesn't get me what I want, probably everyone has found that. Well, and the real truth here is that that's actually not the case. That the rest of the world is actually not in this bubble with you, and they are still doing things this other way. And so it's really fantastic that you're actually approaching this with data, because that's going to save you a lot of unnecessary work and testing. Like if everyone is still
Hmm.
on,
That's fair.
if everyone is still using Google, it doesn't matter if you and I know that ChatGPT is the future and it's probably going to be superior in certain ways. That doesn't matter. What really matters is that people are still using Google. That's the most important data point here of all. So,
It's the important one for this year, I'll put it that way. And not that it's funny. I also wrestled with the concept of, oh my gosh, am I like a Google rep? I don't want to be a Google rep. I want to be a marketer that helps my brands, the clients that I work with. I want to help them get to that next level of business growth. I don't want to say Google, Google, Google all the time. But
well,
in reality,
does
yeah.
this present an opportunity um, from a positioning standpoint of rather than going towards using Google as the terminology, just use search, and eventually search will cover all these different things under the umbrella, including Google, rather than Google specific.
Search, absolutely. Search is a big piece of it, and it's really interesting to think about what I actually would love to brainstorm with you, maybe in this conversation, and share some ideas about how I see that evolving. I'm curious about how you see that evolving with the new AI overviews and ChatGPT like tools. But search is just a piece of it. Actually, so we start with Google, right? And with any brand, really, that's like the bread and butter of what we offer, is that we manage the campaigns on Google. We see the best results when it comes to getting in front of people that are searching for something, whether it's a shopping ad,
Mm-hmm.
or it's another kind of text-based ad. But it extends also to YouTube, because people browse for information. So then it's a video ad format. So it's kind of about getting into a person's head, into your customer's head. How are they shopping? What kind of decisions are they making prior to actually buying something, and extending that shopping cycle across all the platforms that they're going to be on, that as a marketer, as an advertiser, you have reach into, and structuring your campaigns to make sure that your client is represented across that entire buying journey. And then the follow-up process of not just that one moment, although that's the one that converts, and we all love to see those conversions, but how do you push into the space when they're not explicitly looking for you? And this and that speaks a lot to cultivating a customer base through brand awareness. I almost feel like that's a swear word, I'll be honest, because when, as a performance marketing agency, when you look at, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on something called brand awareness, and you don't see that return, it's hard to get your head around how does that make sense? We use a funny metaphor called feed the cow. Um,
Feed the cow. I love it. What does it mean?
feed the cow. So this developed kind of in the trenches of defending spend decisions at that corporate level. Um, feed the cow. And so from an executive level, if you're running a company and you're looking at, okay, here's my marketing budget. What are these marketers doing for me? What are they generating in terms of sales? It's almost like, and if you think about the funnel, which I hate the funnel for reference, but if you think about it, it's almost like, not to be too crass here, but it's almost like you're milking the cow because the milk comes once you milk the cow. But at some point, there's only so much milk coming out of that cow unless you keep feeding the cow.
Yep. Oh,
So,
yeah. It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. And you need to make sure that to keep the metaphor going, you need to make sure that that cow has nice green pastures to feed on so that it can produce
yes,
milk, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is where a lot of the brand building comes in with getting in front of audiences that need to know about your product, but they're not searching for it.
So something that's really funny when you said brand awareness, and that's kind of like a dirty word.
Yeah.
Um, I can completely relate. At our agency, when we started, we were working with, very small brands that probably shouldn't have been hiring an agency at all, but they didn't know,
I
and
hear
we were
you.
so new that we didn't know. Cut to more
Yeah.
recent years, the first 10-figure brand that we worked with, the first global brand, the amount of money that they were throwing at the campaign, and we were approaching it from a performance mentality, and they said, "Oh no, this is just for awareness," and it took us a while to wrap our heads around. Oh wait, for you, this is okay. This is crazy. Like you actually have in
Mm-hmm.
your strategy, you have space and budget for brand awareness. It was it was a very big shift because they had been
Mm-hmm.
around, they had been in the market so long, they had been around long enough to know that actually when we put into this, when we invest in this, when we grow the grass, then the cow
When you
eats,
feed that
basically.
cow with some nice
Yep.
grass, yeah, it's
It
got a
was
pasture.
yeah,
You don't
exactly.
you don't put
It-
it in a factory and say, "Give me milk."
that's wow, this metaphor just keeps going. I love it. So, okay, so I know that you also do some fractional CMO services. Can you kind of describe what led to adding that and what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. It came out of a place. So we started with just the Google Ads, nuts and bolts. Let's get this going. We reached out to our network, any business owners. We literally approached them with an email saying, "Hey, we're going to work for you for free for 3 months.
Wow,
If
for
you
3 months.
For 3 months, yeah, if you are willing to invest a certain level of budget for us to run the campaigns."
That is, first off, I love that. I've heard of people doing this for 1 month, and I think that 1 month is kind of gutsy. 3 months, so that's communicating a lot of confidence on your side. What was the reaction like to that?
We got about 6 customers out of that, and so they were all businesses again through our personal network, and so they were local businesses to Seattle that were willing to take a chance on us. And so to me, it was just really awesome that they were willing to take a chance on us. They had never advertised before, so our budget commitment was pretty low, what we were asking them to do, but we were asking them to step into a new space so that we could prove our skills. Because working at the corporate level, you're looking at strategy, you're looking at numbers, you're talking to tens of people that are involved in that same headspace every single day. But when you're doing it yourself, you want to I wanted to test myself against the tools just on my own, just to see, can I create a result, kind of like a out of nothing, just me and the platform and the media budget that my customer was feeding.
So, question for you:
Yeah.
if you were you were doing this for companies, brands, businesses that hadn't been advertising it, and you were doing it in a new platform or new space for them as well, correct?
Yes.
So in my experience, when we did similar things for businesses back in the day, we found that we spent more time than we had anticipated educating them on how the service worked and
Very true.
why the results mattered. How have you found that to be?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Um, that is very, very true and very common. And in those cases, um, you speak with data, right? So we approached it every month where we had a touch base. Like you gave us, $1,000 here to spend, and here, because we've connected all the conversion tracking in the back end, we're able to see that, okay, last month it generated 500, but this month we're already on track to exceed that. And that works sometimes. But I think it's true, yes, because a lot of business owners try to do themselves and they try to do it all. And part of that is um, also Google Ads may not be the right strategy for every business,
And
which is
sometimes you
what
can
we
see it
learned.
right away, and sometimes you see it after 2 or 3 months. It's true. It's for sure. It's part of the learning expense in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the education, to be honest, I really enjoy it. I think it depends on the positioning. So when we were running our beta group, our testing group, we came out and we said, take a chance on us, take a chance on this platform, give us your money, or not us, but give the money to Google so that we can test it out. So we were asking people to take a lot of chances. And as we, even just over the last year, over the last few months, we've shifted that conversation to talking to people that have already made that decision. They know that, I'll give you a couple of examples. So they know that Google does enough advertising for itself. Like we can write off that benefit. And so when we educate people by running a webinar that says, you know, we will teach you the basics, we'll teach you how to unlock these strategies, people come. And we've had our best webinar, we had over 400 people sign up, which is
Wow,
insane.
that's that's very significant. Good job.
Yeah, it's all to the due to the score network and how much they promoted it. But that gets us in front of an audience that doesn't need to be educated on why Google. Really, we just need to give them some data points and demonstrate that you want to work with us. Like, here's why you want to work with us, because we're really invested in your growth and in making this platform work for you. Or going after customers that have already made the spend decision, but now they're floundering because they can't see where it's going or what it's doing because they never hooked up the conversions. And so that gives us a chance to educate in a different way, right? But they're not starting from all right, let me take a chance on everything. They're starting from a slightly further down the road point, so the education is more fruitful.
It's so key, and these are again things that we learned along the way as well. But you can have, I mean, some of the people that trust you in the early days when they've never done it before, that can go well. That can definitely go well. But I think that that's more of a gamble, especially on your part, because you're asking them to gamble,
Yeah.
and so you're also kind of gambling as well. Because at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs and marketers, we want to have the maximum impact. That's what makes us feel good. That's why we
Yes.
started doing this. Is that rush that you feel when you check the dashboard and you see that the results are up, and then you know that you've actually made an impact in your client's life, and that those warm and fuzzies that you get. And so,
I get such a high from seeing the numbers
yeah,
grow. It's crazy. I'm like, and I was thinking one of our clients, I was just comparing numbers wise. I'm a numbers person, but I was comparing, okay, we have an X amount of retainer with one client, but the numbers are, they're getting there. And we have a much smaller retainer with another client, but the numbers are skyrocketing. And I I get a huge high from the skyrocketing numbers because it makes me
people
feel
talk
like
about
I've got the
runner's high.
power. Huh?
Yeah, yeah, you have the power. Exactly. It's so empowering. But people talk about runner's high, but I think marketer's
Hmm.
high is up there with runner's high. It's a similar similar thing.
So true. Let me ask, do you have any dashboards on your phone? This is one that I've been toying with. I'm like, do I keep my marketer's high going by when I'm like opening the computer, set up my desk, I'll check the dashboard so that I can be prepared for any outcome and respond to it? Or do you like let it sneak into your personal life by like having notifications and that kind of a dash?
This is such a good question because I'm assuming that everyone listening has thought about this or is doing this. So
It's a mental health decision you
it
have to
it,
make as a marketer.
it is. So over the years, I've pulled every dashboard from every platform onto my phone, and I've found that all it does for me is it makes me feel helpless when I see something that I want to take action on, but I can't properly
Mm,
do it from my phone. So
hmm
it's actually ended up being sort of a negative. So I always
hmm
end up removing all the
Not surprised.
dashboards. I
Interesting.
only like to have visibility on things that I can take action on right now. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it just becomes something that's poking at me and something I cannot, it pulls me out of the moment and I can't enjoy or focus on what I'm doing now because now I feel like I have to worry about that thing.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I made this decision probably 2 years into owning an agency, but I removed all of my Gmail notifications
Mm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
told myself that I wouldn't check my email for the first hour after I woke up, because again,
Funny.
in the first
Yeah.
hour, I'm still not planning on doing anything. Like I need to wake up, I need
No.
to have breakfast, but it was the
Drink
same
the
issue.
coffee. Yeah.
Drink the coffee like I'm doing now. It was the same thing where now I have the knowledge of there's something that I need to deal with, but I can't deal with it now, and now the next hour is completely wasted mentally. So
Yeah.
my personal opinion is leave the dashboards to the computer for when you can actually take action. Otherwise, you're just going to add anxiety.
Yeah, maybe I will implement that at some point. I will say that right now I'm still very much that I get the notifications and I just like to celebrate every single conversion that I see come through. It's like I feel like it's a bonus point, so I I
Absolutely. Oh,
celebrate it.
if it's for wins, absolutely for sure. Um, if you have clients like
Trends, no, that one can drive you crazy, especially if it's a short trend of like 7 days over 7 days versus looking at it at a
yes,
bigger picture. That one, no, no.
don't do that. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit. Um, so you're about a year in. What do you think you tell yourself when you were just starting out of what you know now?
What a good question. Let me think. I think a lot of the journey for me personally has been about investing in myself and in my skill and in my that just you're investing in yourself because you have to. You are the vehicle for for the agency. And so I would tell myself not to be shy about that, not to feel guilty about that.
I think that that is some major wisdom. Me looking back, I always look at the years where I didn't invest in myself. I just
Mm,
poured everything I had into the business.
hmm.
I think that that is wisdom. Everyone listening, that is wisdom. Invest in yourself. Marina's telling you, do it.
Yeah, I'll be, I mean, I can tell you how I invest myself. If, and this may be different. I don't know if there's like if it's different for men or for women, but the things that I have found to be really important is like having coaches, having mentors,
Absolutely. One of the most
having
transformational things
mhm,
I've ever done is had a mentor. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And And I do think this is another one of those where, as a business owner starting out, you're thinking, where do I invest my money, right? When before the cash flow starts flowing, and you're writing the either savings or if you've taken out a loan, then do you pay for every service or do you just do it yourself? This is one of the biggest kind of ongoing questions. How much do you do yourself versus how much do you leverage other resources? If you over leverage the other resources, you have no money, you have no skill, you don't know what's happening. It's just out there and people are telling you things with a smile that it's working well, but you don't see it, you don't know what it is. But if you do everything yourself, it's so much slower. So it's this dance in the middle of which decisions do you go for? So for me, I will say hiring a personal coach that helps me train a business mindset that I meet with every other week is actually one of the places where I feel really good about investing because I need that cheerleader and also that push and somebody that so that I can go off wildly in one direction or go off into another direction and then somebody is saying, "Yep, that's good. What did you learn? Okay, how do you move forward?" I need somebody asking me those questions and I don't want to put that responsibility on my friends.
Absolutely. It is the power of outside questions. It really causes you to look at your situation differently. Sometimes it'll show you where maybe you're making mistakes, but sometimes it'll cause you to look and recognize all of the good that you're doing because you need to also see that as well.
Yeah.
Very, very
Yeah,
critical.
starting with the celebrations. Can I throw in another metaphor? I know
I love
earlier
metaphors. You'd never have to ask. More metaphors. Let's go.
we're good. I'm glad we're on video. So before you asked me about the fractional CMO services, and I didn't answer because I wanted to talk about something else. But it's one of those where we can't help ourselves. So as we started getting into businesses and seeing they would hire us to run their Google Ads management, we started asking what else is happening to those people after they complete an order. What does that email communication look like? And what does that full cycle to grow them into more engaged customers look like? We would start bringing data saying, hey, everybody is looking for, is searching in this particular way, but you have nothing about this on your website. So let's change that. So that's where the fractional CMO services comes in. But here's a metaphor. I really like to think of, so in my free time, one of the other big things that I'm investing in this year is I love mountaineering. Like I love the mountains and I
You're in the right
love
location.
exactly. And I think you are as well. So I don't know if this is a sport you enjoy, but I like to think of performance marketing. I think of myself in relation to my clients as a mountaineering Sherpa. So they are the climber. They are the one that wants to reach the top of the mountain. They've got the big dreams. They've built a really cool product or a really cool service. And then how me with the skills of
Wow, those are some serious shoes. Boots.
do you know what these are? Me with the skills and the tools. This is a real one from a mountain that this is my actual boot. These are crampons. You need technical skill to actually get up the mountain. And all the enthusiasm that you have, and all the, I've got my shoes and the weather is good, so I'm going to go up Mount Rainier. At some point, you're going to need some technical gear. And that's where you need a more technically focused marketer with the skills and the equipment to help you get up that mountain.
Do you use this metaphor in webinars?
Not yet.
Well, you should. It's really good. It drives the point home. I love it. For the people who are listening and not watching, she just held up hiking boots with the most gnarly crampon spikes I think I've ever seen. I wouldn't want to be kicked by those. Oh my gosh. Those are like 2 inch, 3 inch spikes.
Yeah, they're very sharp actually. So like when I store them, they have to have rubber ends on them because they are like knives and they will destroy absolutely everything in your bag.
Wow.
You just can't store them otherwise.
Well, the metaphor keeps going because you need to keep your skills sharp.
There you
Right,
go.
right. See,
Yeah.
I'm the extender of metaphors. I just keep them going until long after they're dead. So, okay, I've loved this conversation. You've so neatly told your story. I feel like I have a really good idea of your journey and also sort of what your expertise is and what you do. Um, you touched a little bit on like AI and ChatGPT. I love to ask, are there any specific tools or apps that you use at your agency that you couldn't live without?
My personal favorite right now is it's Scribble. It's a very basic one. It's a meeting. It's an and NotebookLM. So Scribble, it just takes recordings of meetings, and it's integrated into Google Meets. We always meet through Google Meets since we do Google advertising. It makes sense. Um, and it's free, so you love a free tool. And so it's really seamlessly integrated to transcribe. And what how I'm using that tool is I will go into is it sorry, is it Notebook or Notepad LM? I actually
I think it's Notebook
don't
LM.
know. It is Notebook LM. So you're able to throw all of your recorded transcriptions, Google Slides into this resource called Notebook LM that then you can ask questions. So in one case, I was struggling, I was working, I'll give you an example. Recently, I was working through creating our first documented case study on what we've been able to achieve in one client account that already had a pretty good Google Ads budget, but we were able to take these sharper skills to help
Nice,
them get a
nice.
little bit higher on that mountain and keep climbing and to show them that more is possible. And so I actually took our meeting transcriptions, I threw it into NotebookLM along with my own personal notes on the account for the last 8 months, along with presentations that we've been doing with that client. And I asked it, help me put together a case study on this. And then you can question it back and forth based on your original materials.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I've never heard of Notebook LM used for that, but I'll definitely try it. We use a custom GPT at our agency to create
Hmm.
case studies based on predictable input, predictable output. So we have a format. But
Oh,
Notebook
fun.
LM, that's a great use case. We'll definitely try that.
Yeah, and I will say I spent a day after that refining it, but it gave me enough of that, like getting over the edge feeling of the get it started. It gets you through that getting started momentum because then you're not like that. How do I write the first word on a blank page? Headspace, but you're in the headspace of responding to, oh my gosh, you did it wrong. Let me fix it. And so that's a much more productive headspace, which just saves me days.
100%. I think at the end of the day, it's not always the output from the AI tool that is the benefit. It's the fact that it gets you started, it gets you moving,
Yes.
and once you're
Yes.
moving, it's easy to complete. I think for me, anyway, that's been one of the biggest benefits. Is I don't generally use a lot of the output, but I have something to
Hmm.
start with. You can get stuck in analysis paralysis, and I have too many things to do, but you're going to prioritize the thing that's already moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Marina, this has been an excellent conversation. I've really enjoyed talking with you. And where can people find out about you and what you do?
It's been a joy, Sean. Thank you. Marketingworks.io. And works, you can think of it as both a noun and a verb because marketing works if you work it. So marketingworks.io. Or if anybody's listening to this, please connect with me on LinkedIn. That is a really great space and it opens doors for conversations, which is, Sean, how you and I met.
Exactly. I'll have a link to all of this in the show notes, including your LinkedIn profile as well.
Awesome.
Thanks, Marina.
Been a joy. Thanks, Sean.